The wind pushed dust across the empty plain, and the stars above looked sharp and cruel. A lone man sat near the ashes of a dying fire, his coat worn thin, his boots cracked from too many miles. He had nothing left in this world but one horse, a tired animal with dark eyes and ribs that showed under the skin. That horse was his last hope, his only chance to keep moving from one forgotten place to another. His name was Daniel, though no one called him by name anymore. People were gone, towns were empty, and he had long stopped counting the years. He trusted the horse more than he trusted the sky, more than he trusted the ground under his feet, because the horse was the last living soul that stayed beside him. That night, when the fire was only smoke, Daniel heard something strange. It was not the wind, not the sound of branches. It was a soft cry, weak and sharp, like someone trying to breathe and failing. Daniel stood, his hand on the old rifle he carried across his back. He listened, heart heavy, because he had learned that strange sounds at night usually meant death. The cry came again, closer this time. Daniel raised the rifle, but what stepped out from the shadow of the trees made him lower it at once. It was not an enemy soldier, not a thief, not even a beast of the plain. It was a girl, though not human. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faint under the starlight, her hair tangled and dark, her eyes too large, shining with pain. She stumbled forward and fell on her knees, one hand pressed to her side where dark blood spilled between her fingers. Daniel froze. He had seen many things in his lonely years, but never one like her. An alien, a stranger from beyond the sky, lying broken in front of him. His first thought was to turn away. She was not his problem, not his kind, not his war, but when she looked up at him, her eyes wide with fear and hope, he felt his chest twist. The horse snorted, shifting uneasily, as if it too could sense the weight of the moment. Daniel stepped closer, rifle lowered. The alien girl tried to speak, but her voice was weak, words broken. He could not understand her, but he could see the meaning in her eyes. She needed help. She needed to live. Daniel looked at his horse, then back at her. The truth hit him like a stone. He had nothing to give her. No medicine, no shelter, no safe place. The only thing he had was the horse, his last possession, his last lifeline. Without the horse, he was nothing but a man waiting to die. But without the horse, maybe she could live. He walked to the horse slowly, his hands shaking as he touched the reins. The horse's eyes met his, calm and trusting. Daniel whispered, almost to himself, "I guess this is it, old friend." He brought the horse to the girl. She looked at the animal with confusion, then with sudden understanding. Her trembling hands reached out, fingers brushing the horse's mane. Daniel lifted her gently, though she was light, almost too light. Her body was weak, her blood wet on his sleeve. He placed her on the horse's back, tied the reins around her hands. The horse shifted but did not resist, as if it knew what was asked of it. Daniel stepped back, staring at the picture before him, the silver-skinned girl swaying on the back of the only thing he had left. His throat burned, but he did not speak. The alien girl looked at him once more, her lips moving as if to say something. Then, with a weak kick, the horse began to move into the darkness, carrying her away. Daniel stood alone, his hands empty, the fire dead behind him. The plain stretched silent on all sides, and for the first time in years, he felt smaller than the night itself. He had given away his last horse, the last piece of his survival, and yet deep inside a strange warmth flickered. Because when he saw the girl ride into the dark, he knew he had chosen life over despair. He knew that whatever came next, this night was only the beginning. The plain was empty without the sound of hooves. Daniel stood there long after the horse carried the alien girl away, his eyes fixed on the darkness. He felt like a tree left standing in a storm, roots deep but branches broken. The fire behind him was gone, only smoke rising, and the night grew colder with every breath. He turned back to his small camp, but it felt different now. Without the horse nearby, the silence pressed heavier. Every creak of the earth, every whisper of wind felt louder, sharper, as if the world itself was watching him. Daniel sat near the dead fire, rifle across his lap, but he could not rest. The memory of the girl's eyes stayed with him, silver and desperate. He had given her his last hope, and now he was left with nothing but shadows. Then the sounds began. At first he thought it was his mind, tired and playing tricks. But no, They were real. A rustle in the grass, light and quick, too careful to be the wind. Then another sound, like something breathing just beyond the reach of the starlight. Daniel froze, his hand tightening on the rifle. He scanned the dark, but saw nothing except the endless plain and the edge of the forest. The noises came and went, moving around him, never close enough to see. It was as if the night itself had eyes circling him, waiting. Daniel swallowed hard, sweat cold on his neck. He had survived years by trusting his instincts, and now they screamed at him. He was not alone. He thought of the alien girl. Was she truly wounded and lost, or had she been bait, sent to test him? Had others been watching while he gave away his only horse? His stomach turned at the thought, but still he remembered her trembling hands and the blood on his coat. That pain had been real, too real to fake. Hours passed slowly, each minute stretching like rope ready to snap. The stars shifted above and the silence grew heavier, not Eve. And the usual night birds called, not a single insect hummed. It was a silence too perfect, too clean, like the world was holding its breath. Daniel kept the fire low, feeding it with small sticks so it gave light but no smoke. He knew smoke carried far, and if something was watching, he did not want to guide them straight to him. From time to time, he heard it again. Soft feet on dry earth, quick and measured, sometimes one set, sometimes more. They never came close, but they never left either. It was a dance of distance, a reminder that he was marked. The rifle in his hands felt heavier than iron. His eyes burned from trying not to blink. Toward midnight, Daniel's thoughts grew restless. What if they were waiting for dawn? What if the girl had spoken the truth when she tried to warn him? Her broken words, her shaking finger pointing at the horizon. Maybe she had not been asking for help only for herself. Maybe she had been telling him something worse was coming. The fire cracked, breaking the silence, and Daniel nearly jumped. He looked at the forest again, and for a moment he swore he saw something. A figure, tall and thin, standing just at the edge of the trees. But when he blinked, it was gone, swallowed by the dark. He sat rigid, heart pounding, wondering if his mind had finally betrayed him, or if the watchers were closer than he dared to believe. The night dragged on, endless. Daniel thought of his horse again, the faithful companion walking into the unknown with the silver-skinned girl. Was she safe? Had the horse carried her to her people, or had she fallen again, leaving both of them to die in the dark? He would never know, not unless sunrise brought answers. The noises never stopped, sometimes whispers, sometimes the crack of dry twigs, sometimes nothing at all but the weight of silence pressing on his ears. Daniel stayed awake, muscles stiff, refusing to close his eyes. If he slept, they would come. He was sure of it. So he waited, rifle steady, fire low, eyes fixed on the horizon where night met the edge of dawn. Her fingers were colder than ice, yet she held on as if the touch kept her tethered to life. As darkness thickened, the world went silent again. The same silence as before, heavy, suffocating, too complete to be natural. Daniel gripped the rifle, his jaw tight. The girl opened her eyes once more, glowing faint in the firelight. She whispered a single word this time, clear and sharp despite her weakness. Dawn. Daniel felt his blood turn cold. He looked at the horizon where the stars began to sharpen. Whatever hunted them was not gone. It was waiting for the coming light. And when dawn returned, so would the threat. He leaned back against the tree, his body aching but his mind sharp. The girl's breathing was shallow, her hand still in his. He thought of his horse again, wandering somewhere without him. Had it fallen? Had it carried her far before she stumbled back? He would never know. But the horse was gone, and now she was here. She had returned, wounded and afraid, but she had chosen to return to him. That had to mean something. The silence deepened, stretching through the night like a rope pulling tighter and tighter. Daniel's eyes stayed on the horizon. The girl's warning echoed in his head. Sisters, silence, dawn, whatever those words meant. He would find out soon enough, and when the first light came, he would be ready. The night stretched long, and Daniel felt every moment like a weight on his chest. The fire burned low, its glow painting the girl's silver skin with flickering light. She lay weak under the fallen tree, her breathing shallow, her wound bound only with torn cloth. Daniel sat close, rifle across his knees, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the stars met the land. The silence was alive. It pressed against his ears, a silence too heavy to belong to nature. No bird sang, no insect stirred, no wind touched the grass. It was as if the whole world had chosen to wait, holding its breath for something unseen. Daniel knew the watchers were still there, though hidden. He had felt their presence all through the last night, circling, testing, never close but never gone. Now they waited too, waiting for dawn, waiting for the moment the girl had warned about. He looked at her again, lying pale in the firelight, her eyes half open, glowing faintly even in weakness. Sometimes her lips moved, whispering words he could not understand. Her voice was soft, almost like prayer. When she turned her head and looked at him, he felt something shift inside his chest. Not fear, not pity, something else, something heavier. She trusted him, even now, though he was nothing but a broken man with no horse, no food, no future. Still, she clung to his presence as if it meant safety. Daniel fed the fire with the last of his dry wood. Sparks rose into the night, vanishing into the endless black. His eyes never left the horizon. He remembered her words again, broken and heavy with meaning. Sisters. Silence. Dawn. The words chased each other through his head. Were her sisters already near, hidden in the shadows, or would they come with the first light, stepping out of the silence like ghosts? The hours passed slow. Daniel fought sleep, blinking against the weight on his eyes. He dared not close them, dared not let his guard down. For every time he did, the silence seemed to thicken, like something was creeping closer. He would snap awake, rifle tight in his hands, only to see nothing but the still plain. The girl stirred once, her hand reaching weakly. Daniel caught it without thinking, her fingers cold but firm. She whispered again, her voice fragile as glass. Wait, not long. Then her head fell back, her breath trembling but steady. Daniel swallowed hard. Not long, she had said, but every moment felt like eternity. He felt him out. The pull of exhaustion, the ache of hunger, the emptiness of having nothing left. Still he stayed, because leaving was no longer in his nature. He had chosen her, chosen to give away his last horse. Now he would see it through, whatever waited at dawn. The fire dimmed again. Daniel let it die low. Only embers now. He wanted the cover of darkness more than the light of flame. If danger came, he would face it in the shadows, not advertise his place with fire. The plain stretched before him, black and endless. The sky above was heavy with stars, watching cold and silent. For a time nothing moved, and Daniel thought perhaps he had been wrong, perhaps nothing would come. But then he heard it, faint but real. A sound carried across the plain, not footsteps, not whispers, but a hum, low and steady, like a song sung far away. His grip tightened on the rifle. The girl's eyes flicked open, glowing brighter for a moment. She turned toward the sound, her lips parting. Her voice was a whisper, but it carried weight. They are near. Daniel scanned the horizon, his heart pounding, but he saw nothing, only the dark line where the land met the stars. The hum grew stronger, pulsing like a heartbeat through the ground. It rose and fell, never harsh, never loud, but steady and unbroken. It was not human, not natural. It was something older, something alien. The girl shivered, her fingers tightening around his hand. Wait, she breathed. Just wait. And so he did. The night thinned, and the stars began to fade. A pale light touched the far edge of the plain, turning the sky from black to gray. The silence grew heavier still, pressing down like a stone on his chest. Daniel's breath came slow, his pulse hard in his ears. The hum faded into nothing, replaced by a stillness sharper than before. It was the silence she had spoken of, the silence that came before the dawn. Daniel raised his rifle, his eyes locked on the horizon. The girl lay weak but calm now, as if she had known this moment all along, the first ray of sunlight. It broke across the plain, and with it came movement, figures, 3 of them, stepping out of the edge of the forest, silent as shadows. They were tall, their forms shimmering with faint light, their faces like hers but stronger, older. Her sisters had come. Daniel's heart thundered, his finger tight on the trigger. He did not know if they came to kill him or to thank him. The girl whispered one last word before closing her eyes. Wait. The first light of dawn stretched across the plain. Daniel's eyes stung from a night without rest. But he did not blink. He had seen them, Three figures walking out of the forest, moving with silence too deep to belong to this world. They came with the sunrise, tall and graceful, their steps as steady as shadows. The alien girl beside him stirred, her silver skin glowing faint in the dawn light, her lips parted, a faint breath escaping. "Sisters," she whispered, and then her eyes closed again, too weak to stay awake. Daniel gripped his rifle tighter, his heart thundering against his ribs. The three strangers stopped at the edge of the plain, standing in a line. They were shaped like her, silver-skinned and tall, their hair dark, their eyes glowing faintly, but there was power in them, a weight that made the air seem heavier. They carried no weapons that he could see, yet their presence alone felt sharper than any blade. For a long moment they did not move. They simply watched him, their glowing eyes unblinking. Daniel shifted slightly, bringing the rifle up to his shoulder. If they meant harm, he would not go down easy. But even as he aimed, he knew the truth. If they wanted to kill him, he would already be dead. The tallest of the three stepped forward. Her voice was low, calm, but it carried across the plain as if the air itself obeyed her. "You," she said, her accent strange but her words clear enough. "Why did you help her?" Daniel's mouth felt dry. He swallowed, then spoke, his voice rough from silence. "She was hurt," he said simply. "She needed help." The three sisters exchanged a glance. Their eyes flickering with light, the leader tilted her head, her voice still calm. "You gave her your animal, the last one you had. You gave her your survival. Why?" Daniel's grip on the rifle eased. He thought of his horse, the faithful companion that had carried him through years of emptiness. Gone now, given away in a single moment. He lowered the weapon slightly, meeting the leader's glowing eyes. "Because she needed it more than I did," he said. "She was alone, and I couldn't just let her die." Silence followed, heavy and long. The three sisters stood unmoving, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Daniel felt sweat on his brow, his throat tight. Had he said the wrong thing? Had he just spoken the words that would cost him his life? Then the second sister stepped forward, her voice sharper, colder. "Humans are selfish. Humans destroy. Yet you gave her everything. Are you not afraid of death?" Daniel's chest rose and fell with a long breath. "Death doesn't scare me anymore," he said. "Living without meaning does." The sisters' eyes glowed brighter for a moment. The hum he had heard in the night seemed to rise faintly again, as if it lived within them. The leader stepped closer now, stopping just a few feet away. Daniel tightened his grip on the rifle, but he did not raise it. Her gaze moved from him to the girl lying weak under the tree, then back to him. "You chose without knowing who she was," the leader said, her tone unreadable. "You chose without knowing what we are." Daniel nodded. "I didn't need to know," he said. "She was hurt, and she needed help. That was enough." For the first time, the leader's expression changed, a flicker of something like surprise in her silver features. The second sister tilted her head, her sharp voice softer now. "He speaks without fear." The third sister, who had remained silent until now, finally stepped forward. Her eyes were the brightest, her voice like wind through hollow stone. "Fear is not gone from him," she said. "It is there, but he chooses against it. That is different." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine at her words. They spoke of him as though they could see inside him, as though every thought, every weakness, every memory was laid bare before them. The leader knelt beside the wounded girl, her hand brushing the bloodied cloth. The girl stirred, whispering a faint sound. The leader's eyes softened, then she looked back at Daniel. "You carried her life when you had no reason to. You gave when you had nothing left." She stood again, her presence taller than before. "Few of your kind would do this." Daniel swallowed, the weight of their attention pressing harder than any weapon. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice steady but low. The leader did not answer at once. The three sisters exchanged a look, their glowing eyes speaking in silence. At last the leader turned back to him, her gaze sharp as a blade. "What happens now depends on your choice," she said. "We can end you here, or we can give you something far greater than what you lost." Daniel's pulse quickened, his grip on the rifle tight once more. This was no simple meeting, no simple test. It was something bigger, something that stretched beyond him, beyond the plain. The sisters had come not only for their wounded kin, but for him as well. The silence deepened again, heavy with meaning. The dawn light grew stronger, painting the world in gold, and Daniel knew that the choice he made in the next breath would change everything. The dawn burned brighter across the plain. Daniel stood unmoving, the rifle still heavy in his hands. The three alien sisters stood before him, silent and sharp as blades of light. The wounded girl lay beneath the fallen tree, her breathing slow but steady. The leader spoke first, Ham. Her voice calm but heavy with meaning. You gave when you had nothing. You carried when you could have left. Such a choice has weight. Her glowing eyes locked onto his, searching deep. You are human, yet you chose against your nature. Why? Daniel's throat felt dry, but his voice came firm. Because she was alone. Because I couldn't watch someone die when I could stop it. He paused, his grip on the rifle loosening slightly. It doesn't matter what she is, she needed help, and I had the chance to give it. The second sister stepped closer, her presence colder, her eyes sharper. You gave your survival, your animal, your last lifeline. You are nothing without it. Why risk everything for one not of your kind? Daniel drew a slow breath. Because I know what it means to have nothing, he said. To watch the world empty around you, to walk alone, to carry only silence. No one should face that. Not if I can stop it. The sisters exchanged a glance, their glowing eyes flickering like embers. The third sister stepped forward this time, her voice softer, almost curious. You fear death, yet you speak as though you do not. Which truth is yours? Daniel looked at her, his voice low but steady. I fear it, yes, but I fear something else more. I fear a life without meaning. If all I do is survive for myself, then I might as well already be dead. The silence that followed was heavy. The sisters stood together, their gaze never leaving him. Daniel's pulse hammered in his chest, but he did not look away. At last, the leader raised her hand, and the air shifted. From the space between them, a faint light began to glow. It pulsed like a living heart, hanging in the air between Daniel and the sisters. The hum he had heard in the night returned, stronger now, filling the plain with its rhythm. This is our gift, the leader said, her voice like stone on steel. But it is also a burden. If you take it, your path will no longer be your own. You will carry more than yourself. You will carry us. Daniel stared at the light, its glow reflecting in his tired eyes. The rifle in his hands suddenly felt small, useless. What happens if I refuse, he asked. The second sister's eyes narrowed. Then you return to nothing, to silence, to the slow death of a man without a horse, without food, without meaning. Your life will fade, and no one will remember. The third sister tilted her head, her voice softer still. If you choose, you step into something greater, but you will not return as you are. You will not belong only to yourself again. Daniel's chest tightened. He thought of his horse, walking away with the girl. He thought of the long nights alone, the silence pressing against his ears. He thought of the alien girl now, weak but alive, breathing because he had chosen to give. The leader's eyes glowed brighter. Choose, human, life as it was, or life as it could be. Daniel's hand tightened on the rifle one last time, then slowly he lowered it to the ground. His voice was rough but firm. I've already made my choice. He looked at the wounded girl, her fragile breath rising and falling. I gave her my horse, I gave her what I had, and I don't regret it. If there's more to give, then I'll give it too. The sisters stood still, their glowing eyes unblinking. The hum deepened, the light between them flaring brighter. Then the leader raised her hand and pressed it toward him. The light surged forward, wrapping him in its glow. Daniel gasped as it touched his skin, warmth and weight all at once. It burned without pain. It filled without breaking. Memories not his own flashed through him. Strange stars, unknown skies, voices that were not human. He stumbled but did not fall, his breath ragged. The sisters' voices came as one, echoing through the plain. You have chosen. The light sank into him, vanishing beneath his skin, leaving only silence behind. Daniel fell to one knee, the world spinning but his heart steady when he lay. Oaked up, the sisters were watching, their eyes softer now. The leader spoke again, her voice no longer sharp but almost gentle. Now you carry more than yourself. You carry her life and ours. Your path is no longer alone. Daniel's chest heaved with breath, his body trembling, but deep inside, he felt something he had not known in years. Not emptiness, not despair, but purpose. The silence of the plane no longer pressed against him. Instead, it felt alive, waiting. The sisters turned together, their forms glowing faint in the rising sun. The wounded girl stirred again, her eyes opening weak but clear. She looked at him, and for the first time since he found her, she smiled. Daniel knew then that his life was no longer his own, and yet, for the first time in years, he welcomed it. The dawn stretched wider across the plain, painting the land in gold and fire. Daniel knelt in the dirt, his body trembling, the strange light still echoing inside him. The sisters stood before him, tall and silent, their glowing eyes fixed on him as if weighing every breath he took. The wounded girl beside the fallen tree stirred, her pale lips moving, her silver skin shining softly in the morning light. Daniel drew in a deep breath, steadying himself. He no longer felt empty, no longer felt the crushing silence that had haunted his nights. Inside him was something new, something alive, like a second heartbeat that was not his own. It thrummed through his blood, filling him with warmth and weight. The leader of the sisters stepped forward, her presence calm but commanding. "You have taken the burden, you have chosen more than yourself," she said, her voice smooth as stone. "Now you will walk a path that binds you to us." Daniel's throat tightened, but he did not look away. "What happens now?" he asked, his voice rough. The second sister tilted her head, her glowing eyes sharp as a blade. "Now you carry our memory, our strength. You are not one of us, but you are no longer only human." The third sister's voice came softer, almost like wind. "We do not stay, we never stay, but you will not be left with nothing." Daniel frowned, his hands trembling at his sides. "What do you mean?" The sisters did not answer at once. Instead, they turned their gaze to the wounded girl. Her weak body shifted, her eyes opening slowly, and when they met his, Daniel saw gratitude shining through the pain. She reached out with one trembling hand, her fingers brushing against his wrist. Her touch was cold, but there was trust in it, and something deeper. Connection. The leader's voice broke the silence again. "At sunrise, we must leave, but before we go, we will not leave you empty-handed." She raised her hand, and between her fingers a sphere of light formed. It pulsed with energy, brighter than fire, softer than the sun. The hum returned, the same sound Daniel had felt in his bones, stronger now, filling the air with vibration. Daniel's eyes widened, his chest heavy. "What is it?" he whispered. The second sister spoke, her words like steel. "It is a seed, not of earth, not of sky, a gift of dawn. It is alive. It will grow. It will choose." The sphere drifted forward, stopping in front of Daniel's chest. Its glow painted his face in white and gold. He could feel the warmth pouring from it, the steady rhythm of a living thing. For a moment, he thought of his horse again, the last true companion he had lost, and he understood. The horse had carried her, but this gift would carry him. The leader's voice was firm. "You gave your last, and now we give you ours. It is not payment. It is not debt. It is balance." Daniel reached out slowly, his hand trembling as his fingers brushed the glowing sphere. It was warm but not burning, heavy but not crushing. The moment his skin touched it, the light sank into him, slipping beneath his flesh like water. His breath caught, his chest rising sharply, his body filled with a rush of life. Keys flashed behind his eyes, stars he had never seen, worlds beyond imagining, voices that were not human but spoke inside his mind. Then it was gone, leaving only silence. But this silence was different, not heavy, not empty. It was alive, filled with quiet strength. Daniel stood straighter, his tired frame stronger, his eyes burning with new light. The three sisters stepped back, their faces calm but unreadable. The wounded girl's lips moved again, whispering faintly. "Thank you," she breathed, her eyes closing as her sisters lifted her gently. They carried her with ease, her body glowing faintly as if the dawn itself wrapped around her. Daniel's throat ached as he watched them. He wanted to speak, to ask where they were going, if he would ever see them again. But no words came. He knew the answer already. They were not meant to stay. The leader turned one last time, her glowing eyes locking onto his. "Your choice has bound you to us humans," she said, her voice carrying across the plain. "You are not forgotten. When silence comes again, you will not face it alone." With that, the sisters moved, their steps silent, their forms fading into the light of dawn. In moments, they were gone, the plane empty once more. Daniel stood in the silence, the rifle at his feet, the ashes of his fire cold. But inside him burned something new. He looked at his hands, still trembling from the touch of the gift. He felt the hum deep in his chest, steady and alive. For years he had wandered with nothing, his horse, his only companion, his nights filled with silence. Now, for the first time in years, he did not feel alone. The sun rose higher, spilling light across the land. Daniel picked up his rifle, slung it across his back, and took his first step forward. Each step felt stronger, each breath steadier. He had given his last horse, but he had gained something far greater. The dawn had given him a gift, and with it, a new beginning. And as he walked into the rising sun, the silence behind him was no longer empty. It was full, alive, waiting.